The wheel weaves. She was a soldier, a warrior in her way as much as I. This could have happened 200 times these past 20 years. She knew it, and so do I. It was a good day to die. We are alike in many ways, you and I. There is a darkness in us. Darkness, pain, death, they radiate from us. If you ever love a woman, leave her and let her find another. It will be the best gift that you can give her. Peace favor your sword. What's up, bookworms? After a short break, the wheel is once again turning, and I have begun what I am declaring Phase 2 of my Wheel of Time reading plan. This plan includes The Fires of Heaven, Lord of Chaos, A Crown of Swords, and The Path of Daggers. But today, we are here to talk about The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan, and boy, is there a lot to talk about. Let me begin by saying that if this is the first time that you are watching my reviews, I have reviews for the first 4 Wheel of Time books on the channel, as well as non-spoiler segments I call Let's Discuss. But I do want to reiterate that all of my actual book reviews, these segments are all full of spoilers. So if you have not yet read The Fires of Heaven, and you intend to, and you should, please bookmark this video and come back after you have read it, because I am about to spoil the hell out of it. Okay, so spoiler warning over. Let's get into it. Little criticism first, and let me just get this out front, guys. I put these under what I call the Geek Media Core goggles, so I will really get into constructive criticism here. It does not mean that I do not like the book at all. I would not be reading these still if I did not like the books, but there will be criticism here, so don't anyone feel slighted by that. There's plenty more that I like than I don't like here. So I will say that this is the first Wheel of Time book where I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect. I thought the first half of the book was overly long and really went nowhere except to a carnival and a bunch of muddy campsites. But in traditional Robert Jordan fashion, he drops those 1.21 gigawatts on you in the final act, and any frustrations you had about reading 20 pages about tightrope walking and 28 new Aiel customs and traditions, well, they go right out the window, because the final 200 pages of this book, man, I could not put it down. So as I always do, I'm going to kind of run down a very simple summary of the plot, the big events in the book. Obviously, this book is almost 400,000 words, so there might be some stuff I leave out. That's just what's going to happen. I don't want these reviews to be like an hour or anything like that. So I'm going to talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, and what each of our big characters did that kind of stood out to me here. So the early parts of this book, they really focus on Rand. He's still with the Aiel, and it's deciding that it's time to go after Couladin, or what I refer to as the false Karakarn. Him and the Shaido Aiel, they're just kind of raping and pillaging across the landscape right now. So along with getting everyone on his side for the last battle, Rand has to get this guy, put him in check, get him taken care of. And herein lies my first real struggle with this book. Egwene. Now look, I like all the characters in the story. I know there are factions of the Wheel of Time fandom that love to hate specific characters. I do not. I love them all. I love more than others, but I love them all. That's strictly book-to-book basis for me, though. There's been books where I didn't care for a certain character, but then in the next book, they're completely different, and I'm fine with that. But in each book, there has been one character I could have done without. And in this one, it's Egwene. Besides just constantly being mad at Rand, this entire first act, I mean, she's just stuck in fifth gear with her anger at him. Every single thing he does about her folding her arms, where Robert Jordan likes to tell us where she likes to fold her arms, and how she just stomps off, calls him Woolhead, all that stuff. And it just, the first act, I feel like she just serves no purpose. Besides being mad at Rand, that's it. That's her purpose in this first act of this book. She's just mad at him about everything. And Aviendha, she decides, hey, this seems like fun. And the two of them, they just constantly snap at this dude. I mean, how am I supposed to believe that just Dragon Reborn is just the baddest man in the land? Everybody, all these well-respected leaders, they respect him, they listen to him, they're ready to follow him. But this is happening all while Egwene and Aviendha just jabbing insults at him after every damn sentence. It's, I don't know. Once in a while, I could have shrugged it off, but Jordan really just overdoes it this book with them, and it just grated on me after a while. What I did find surprising, though, is that Moraine this time, she basically bends the knee to Rand in this, so to speak. And, this pisses my dude Lan off like you can't believe. And honestly, I couldn't figure out what her end game was with this one. More on that later. It's kind of a big deal. But at this point, I didn't really know what the deal was. But again, I'm not crazy about all the Aiel stuff so far in this story. I know that they're going to serve a means to an end, but I feel like the multiple clan names, the lingo, or slang terms, whatever the actual terminology is for it there, just the sheer amount of characters and their surnames and all that stuff, it feels overly convoluted to me, and it doesn't need to be. It got to the point where I started being like, if I don't see your name more than 2 or 3 times, I'm just not even remembering it at this point. And I made the reference before in Shadow Rising that, and I'm sticking to it, I feel like the Aiel are just a less interesting version of the Fremen from Frank Herbert's Dune. And I have a feeling that comparison is just going to stay there. The next thing I wasn't nuts about in this book was the circus. I got kids. I like the circus. I have no idea if Jordan had just taken his kids to the circus recently or something, but way too much time is spent on Nynaeve and Tom and Elaine and Julian just hiding out with a circus and learning how to tightrope walk and throw knives. And it's just, I just groaned out loud when it was another chapter about this stuff. And guys, again, don't turn off the video thinking I hate this book, because I'm just getting the stuff out of the way early. The stuff I loved is coming up. Trust me. After I talk about Teleron Riode. I hope I'm saying that right, guys. I don't even know. I feel like George's been building Teleron Riode for 3 to 4 books now, and I'm fine with it. The chapters about the dream world, they're good, but sometimes they make me want to visit the real dream world. But I get why it's necessary. Basically, instead of using carrier pigeons, it's the only real way for these characters to be able to interact with each other that are, on opposite sides of the continent. And so it makes sense. It makes sense. It just, with a lot of things in this book, I feel like this just is overly long. I think this book could have been about 200 pages shorter. Trim the Teleran Riode chapters down, lean down the Aiel plots, and for God's sake, stop with the recaps, brother. This is book 5. I'm in at this point. I read the last book. I don't need a recap. Just jump in. Just do your prologue and then just jump into the story. And little spoiler there, I've started into Lord of Chaos already, and he does that. There is no recap. We're right into it. Let's get to where this book takes off like a rocket, though. I feel like this is the book where our young characters grow up, so to speak. Nynaeve gets smacked around a few times after realizing she's not still in Two Rivers. She can't just, be snappy and yell at everyone to get her way. Rand and Mat, for lack of a better term, they start sexing up the women's this go around. And Egwene is being set up as like part Aes Sedai, part Aiel Wise One. So there's some depth there. I wish I'd had more of that, unless of her just being angry at Rand the whole time. And this leads me to Perrin. After the Shadow Rising, Perrin shot all the way to the top of my character power rankings. And for him to be completely MIA in this book, man, that was tough for me to swallow. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm okay with not having this book be another 150 pages with just seeing Rand being a lord. I didn't need that. I'm sorry, Perrin being a lord. I'm okay with Perrin's being a lord. He's having his honeymoon phase with Fael. Cool. That's great. That's fine. I just hope this isn't a usual thing to have one of the big three Ta'veren really miss a whole book. I mean, Rand basically missed all of Dragon Reborn. So, I mean, Mat gets very little viewpoints at all right now still. So, I don't need any of those three just being gone. I don't need that. But let's talk about Mat. Finally, I had that moment with him where I see why he's so popular with the fandom. There's a scene he's in where he's coming to tell Rand, you've had it, that's it. He's not feeling the pull anymore, so he's going to go. He feels like he can finally get away. And while he's waiting for Rand to show up in his tent, Lan comes in and, starts talking about their upcoming battle with the Shaido. And boom, like out of nowhere, Mat is basically a war master, using those memories that he got put into his head from the last book. And then as he's still going to leave, he knows how, they're going to get ambushed, they're going to just get the floor wiped with him in this battle. He decides to try and stay and help out. He leads his own platoon. And Matt's actually the one who kills Couladin. I thought that was just awesome. I mean, it's off screen, so to speak, but it was no less effective. It was really, really cool and just a really awesome moment for Matt. And I'm glad that, he's sticking around now. He feels like he's got a purpose. Rand basically tells him, dude, just shut up. You're here. You're going to be here now or later, just like parents going to be fill the pool to come back later. So just zip it. Just stick around. So I'm glad he is. I don't need all three of the ta'veren to be in different places. You can have them all team up. It's fine. Not really feeling the Rand and Aviendha romance yet. Probably because of what I mentioned earlier about them always snapping at him and throwing insults at him. And honestly, I'm starting to get a bit uncomfortable. And I know this might be something I go back to and listen to later and laugh. I'm starting to get a bit uncomfortable with Jordan setting up Rand to have 3 wives in Aviendha, Elaine, and Min. I guess he just wanted him to have a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead there. Perhaps I'll be okay with it when it actually happens, but for lack of a better word, right now it feels kind of icky. I'm not really feeling that. I don't know how he's going to sell me on this. I know he's been planting these seeds about the Aiel, they have these extra wives and so I don't know, man. I don't know. But this is the beginning of the final act where Matt tells Rand that he believes Morghese is dead. And I don't know if it's Raven or Robin. I'm saying Ravine has taken her place as the ruler of Andor. So Rand's like, all right, hell with all this stuff. We're going to go kill us or Forsaken. Moiraine says, hey, I need to speak with you down by the docks first. And won't take no for an answer. Rand's like, I ain't got time. She starts walking off. He's like, all right, whatever. So he goes down there. And guys, I'm not going to lie here. I read a lot of what is called grimdark fantasy. That's like your Game of Thrones. That's like your Joe Abercrombie's First Law, the Black Company, stuff like that, where you've got main characters just getting killed off all the time. And it's not shocking at that point because it's still like, man, that sucks, but it happens. But when you're reading more traditional fantasy, you just assume that all the heroes are safe. And I think that had put me into a comfort zone with this where I felt like all the big-time players were safe. This death got me, man. And, I'm not going to lie, I am a unabashed Moiraine fanboy. This one hurt, man. This one hurt. And my common sense says in a fantasy or a sci-fi story, if you don't see a body, they aren't actually dead. But when Lan's bond to her is broken, I think I accepted it. Man, it just sucks. It just sucks. It's just an amazing scene between her and Lanfear. And when Rand is reading her letter to him after, it's just heartbreaking. And I'm still not okay. To make things even worse, now my dude Lan, now he's gone too. It's just, oh, man. It's rough. It's rough. It was such an incredible scene, but oh man, I'm going to miss her if she's really gone. It isn't until this final act, where I feel like Nynaeve and Elaine are actually important in this book. They somehow pull Birgitte. Is I saying Birgitte? I hope I'm saying that right. They pull her out of Tel'aran'rhiod, and Elaine actually bonds her as a warder, which is something I didn't know that could be done. So that's really cool. And Nynaeve has another couple showdowns with Moghedien. Again, guys, if I'm saying these Forsaken names wrong, I'm sorry. I'm not listening to the audiobooks. I don't know if I'm saying them right. But none of them are as cool as her showdown with Moghedien in Shadow Rising. But she comes out on top again. She eventually captures her with an Adam collar and forces her to help fight Ravine and with Rand inside of Tel'aran'rhiod. So things get really, really, really crazy in this final act, but in a great way. But, after the Moiraine death, I wasn't really fooled by Matt, Aviendha, and Osmodian dying right there at the wall by the hands of Ravine. But I had no idea how he was going to resolve that one. I knew with as much as the fan base loves Matt, he wasn't going out in this book like that. I know they had kind of planted that seeds with the Balefire explanation that had been set up earlier with the Darkhounds. And it was a cool callback. I just completely forgot about it. That'll happen with a book that's this many words long. But the most interesting thing out of that whole sequence to me was Nynaeve telling Rand that it was evil for him to be inside of Tel'aran'rhiod in the flesh, not in the out of body in the dream world, but to be there in the flesh. And Rand's like, yeah, whatever. And he keeps trying to talk to Nynaeve, and she's like, no, you got to get out of here. So I think that's something to look forward to for later, for sure. But the absolute biggest question I have from this book is who the hell killed Osmodian at the end? Dude had just gotten revived, and then he's killed again in his next POV chapter. Man, that's just a rough day. And that basically leads us up to Lord of Chaos, which like I said earlier, I've already started on about 120 pages in or so. But I'll save that for discussing then. Let's do a character rundown here of what I liked, starting with Rand. He's starting to go a little more mad each book, which I think is cool. A little descent into madness. I think that's the way it goes, which I'm assuming he's eventually going to overcome. I hope. But now hearing and hearing and even actually arguing with Lews Therin in his head, like Smeagol and Gollum or something like that, I think it's a really smart move of him to grant amnesty for all the men who can channel, because he's going to need their help for the last battle. And I'm thinking this whole I can't kill a woman thing, even if they're a Forsaken, basically, that's what basically gets Moiraine killed. That one's going to haunt him for a while, and it's lost him land too, and that's like the guy who's been training him how to use a sword and all this stuff. So I feel like there was a bond between him and Lan. Lan's parting words to him is a really good scene. So I'm just to see what's going to happen with Dragon here, because he just seems to be going more and more losing grip on who he is here, and I just wonder if he's going to be just straight up Lews Therin. I actually got a question. I wonder if when the dragon actually was Lews Therin, if everyone called him whatever his name was before that, like everybody calls Rand Lews Therin. Matt, I love the direction that they're going with him now. He's basically like this badass on the warfield, and he even had I think 5 or 6 POV chapters in this. But I can't wait for his next one. Every single time I get one, I'm like, all right, I got to see what's going to happen here. And I'm wondering if having him have to kill Melandra, I can't remember which one her name was, the dark friend. What if that's going to give him any PTSD at all? He was pretty messed up about it when it happened. So again, you get lots of things. I'm hoping they don't just kind of like an episode of the X-Files where something crazy happens and then the next week they never reference it at all. I'm hoping it's not like that, and they actually. I just said I wanted Jordan to keep going with it and not recap everything, but I don't want to forget that these things happened. I don't want these characters to forget that these things happened to them. So Rand struggling with basically getting Moiraine killed, and Matt struggling with having to kill Melandra. Yeah, I want to see these boys have some issues and work through them. Egwene, I already touched about my opinions on her earlier. I need her to do more. I think Rand is setting her up to be the one who's going to be basically sitting in that chair at Carrion or Kingland. I'm getting the cities mixed up right now, so I'll save that for a theories video maybe. Nynaeve does get a big serving of humble pie in this book. I think she's starting to realize she can't just yell at everyone and get her way. That's people that you'd been around for a long time since you were children, where you were an authority figure, and now you're finding people that are just as headstrong as you, and they're like, I ain't having that. She gets in fights in this book. She loses fights. Gideon actually kicks her ass a couple times. I'm curious to see if she is actually successful at trying to reverse the stilling of Siuan Sanche. That would be really interesting. If she could do that, that'd be quite a feat. And also, her completely dunking on Moghedien again at the end was classic. Just classic. Moghedien just turned into a real coward there once she had that collar on, and it was really cool. Perrin, MIA, and I don't like it. He better be in Lord of Chaos. Loyal, too. I need me some loyal. Maybe he's been writing his book this whole time. Moiraine, I'm pouring one out for you, love. I understand how these things work in fantasy stories, sci-fi stories, all Joseph Campbell stories. Obi-Wan or Gandalf has to eventually die so the farm boy can spread his wings and become the hero. I get it. So while I can't say I was stunned by it, it didn't make it any less effective. Basically, if this review was on Twitter, I'd be throwing up the #TooSoon one right now, because that one hurts. That one hurts. Her presence is going to be felt, or her lack of her presence is going to be felt in the next book, I think. Lan, he's always been my favorite secondary character. If you want to call him a secondary character, I call him a secondary character because he doesn't get a point of view chapter, and he gets like 1 paragraph of dialogue per book. So I feel like if Jordan isn't going to use him, I'm okay with letting him go. Let him go do his own thing right now. Maybe he'll show up and be more important later. Moiraine put that spell on him, or whatever the official term for it is. Sorry, guys, I am still a rookie at this Wheel of Time thing. He's immediately bonded to someone else once, or should Moraine die. And, he asks Rand to basically break up with Nynaeve for him. As tradition dictates, I always read a quote from one character, and it's almost always going to be Lan, because he always has, the best lines. He says, "Tell her a clean wound heals quickest and pain shortest. Tell her I found someone else. Green sisters are sometimes as close to their warders as other women are to husbands. In every way. Tell her I've gone to be a Green sister's lover as well as her sword. These things happen. It has been a long time since I have seen her." Lan. The biggest heartbreaker in all of Randland, ain't he? If I have a prediction here, it's that Moraine did this whole binding, or whatever it's called, for him to have a way to be bonded to Nynaeve once she's, a full Aes Sedai, not just an accepted. I feel like this Green Aja, I don't know if they've said the name. If they have, I've forgotten it. I don't know. I just think that she's going to be a pit stop, whoever this is. She's just going to be a pit stop. And once Nynaeve is officially an Aes Sedai, she's going to transfer that bond to Nynaeve. I feel like that's the easiest guess that there is out there. Tom, probably my biggest character gripe in this book is Tom. I love Tom, and he's shown himself to be quite capable in the game of houses with a blade. He's good in a fight. He's good at strategy. He's good at just about everything, and he's basically turned into comic relief this go around, and that will not stand. Get this guy something to do in Lord of Chaos, please. Get out of the circus. Elaine, I'm ready for Elaine to have a bigger story at this point. I'd like to see her maybe go to Andor and assume the throne if Morghese does not come back, and they keep playing up that they think that she's dead. Basically, I want her to be more than just a messenger girl in Tel'aran'rhiod going forward, and I guess rewarding Birgitte in this is the first step into making her a bigger character. I am aware of the fan hate for Elaine, so I'm guessing she does get bigger storylines. And they might not go the way that I want. I might be regretting these words. This one might be a little controversial because I know Min has a very big fan following, but I feel like Min is just the most pointless character in this story right now. I feel like she's just always there. She's just a plot device to see what others are doing when they're doing important stuff. I know her visions are supposed to be important, and I'm sure that they will, and it'll make sense over time. But besides that, all she does is talk about how she misses Rand. I've already got Aviendha and Elaine telling me how much they miss Rand. I don't need a third person telling me how much they miss Rand. Give this girl something to do or write her out, because I'm not understanding why people love Min so much. I knew with Matt that it would eventually come. With Min, I'm not sure it ever does. If this is just what she does the whole series. When they make the TV show of this right now, I feel like they could combine the character of Min with someone else. They could combine Elaine and Min or somebody probably. Again, that might be something that's hilarious when I go back and listen to this after I finish the series. But right now, that's how I'm feeling about Min. And I think that about sums it up, really. I'll say that while this is probably my least favorite of the 5 Wheel of Time books that I've read so far, it does have some of my top 10 favorite moments in the series yet. Just way too heavy on the stuff that should have been leaned down. And if I'm being honest, it'll probably be better on a reread than a first read. I mean, I did enjoy the book, and if this is my least favorite of the first 5, well, then you're reading a pretty good series. I started Lord of Chaos immediately after I finished the last page in this one, and it made me think again, thinking back to the Amazon TV series, it makes me think of how crazy good season finales and cliffhangers on this thing could be if the series is done well, and they actually follow the books, which is never a given with TV adaptations. At least the story is finished, so we don't have that problem we had with the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. Sorry, that's a hot issue right now. So guys, thanks for watching. Please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you like this video. It's still a relatively very young channel, and those damn YouTube algorithms, they don't let your videos show up in a search unless you have like 500 subscribers or so. So subscribing and sharing this video helps the channel out a ton, and you can find other book reviews on here, author dives, as I call them. Let's discuss segments on the channel. It's not just Wheel of Time stuff, many other great series and authors. And it's not just going to be fantasy. Big Stephen King fan. I'll be diving into a lot of Stephen King stuff here soon. And, I read a 500 to 700 page book about once a week or every 2 weeks if nothing crazy is going on in real life. And I got 2 young kids, not a lot crazy is going on in my life right now. So, I mean, the content doesn't seem like it'll be slowing down anytime soon. So, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon about the Lord of Chaos, sheep herders.